this whole debate was led, if you like, by the Lord Davies report in terms of women on boards, and I thought that sort of something to think about was Sheila Whitaker, who is a non-executive director of Standard Life, and she told the Radio 4 Today programme that quotas were the answer, but for the simple fact that I'm a big supporter of quotas, she said. I believe that we will only have true equality when we have as many incompetent women in positions of power as incompetent men. The latest stats show that it could take over 70 years to achieve gender balance in the UK's largest 100 companies. Okay, so in Norway, Lara, 40% quota for women in their companies. They're still alive and kicking. Would you support quotas?
No, I agree with Alan. The idea of any discrimination I loathe, and that just applies. I just find it a really uncomfortable position.
But quotas aren't the answer.
No, dictating it isn't going, because in Norway, actually, what has happened amongst the community is there is now a belief that it's something about a golden skirt is the translation in Norway.
Golden skirt.
That's what they call it.
Sounds heavy.
In England, it's just you're there to make up the number.
50-50 split, at least in media coverage, has become kind of the norm. When I'm writing stories, I do feel like it's ridiculous if I don't have half women, half men.
So does that mean you approve of quotas or you don't?
I don't approve of them in terms of like an arbitrary line, but in terms of like at least in media representation, you do inevitably kind of feel stupid if you've got a panel of like entirely men in your quoting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Priya.
I don't agree with quotas at all. Okay, I think it's ridiculous. We're fighting for equal rights for women, not for an advantage for women. If there are quotas, and but first of all, what they're saying to companies is voluntarily look at your program, your hiring program, and see if you can recruit more women, and then we'll look at a quota at a future date if we have to. Now that's going to take a whole other generation of women. What I would say is, why don't we tell parents? Why don't we tell schools to basically educate the next generation of business leaders, all the children, and say, look at Anita Roddick, look at Linda Bennett.
Okay, Lara, what do you think? You've worked globally.
Yeah, candidly. I went to Cranfield BGP to learn about business growth. I had no training, and one of the charts they taught me is that on day one, and by the way, I have a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old. They already know this. When you get your salary, the first thing you should do is ask for a raise. In fact, it's ideal.
Is that a pocket money question?
Yeah, it is a pocket money issue for them. Because actually, exponentially, the sooner you start driving your hierarchy of success. I have 3 girls, by the way. I plan to have 3 boys. Disaster. But the point is that this whole thing about. I do think the new generation get it. I have 3 very confident young women.
Okay, Priya, what do you think about this?
It's a lot to do with attitude. It's the same sort of thing. It's the fact that women sometimes go into a workplace and they feel like the underdog. You hear about some women and they're against the men, and I think it's just about a characteristic of a male. Sometimes they're able to ask for a pay rise and just reporting. Just go back on your point. They just feel like, oh look, I did a really good deal. Now I'm going to go to my boss and say, I did that deal. That was mine. I owned that. Now I want a promotion. Whereas a woman will do a good deal and kind of just sit back generally. And about this, the Walmart case. That is what we're fighting.
Is that what you really think? Is that a generalisation that holds true?
It does happen.
It unfortunately does hold true.
In a more passive sense, or
it's just the way the culture. We've grown up in an environment where majority possibly of the individuals here, where we're told at home, women, you're a woman, you should be ladylike. Yeah. You shouldn't put your ideas too forcefully ahead. You let your brother do it.
I am vicious. Negotiating for a client
on behalf
of
your
company. Absolutely. If I have to go into any sort of mediation or negotiation, either on behalf of a client or on behalf of the institution that I represent, I'm as good as the next bloke.
But is that a uniquely female trait? Do you not think that? Is there a male here that feels the same thing, that they're good at negotiating for them, on behalf of their companies, but bad on themselves?
Are there any
males? There are. They're all back in the dark now.
I think we do. We go in this kind of apologetic frame of mind.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm terribly sorry to bother you about asking you for a raise. Could I kindly point out or respectfully request that you take account of this summary of business development?
Is there some culture and some value that women-led businesses have that's really important to the country socially and economically?
What's your own view about that? You're not going first, so you better just sit back. Donata, you're observing lots of males and females every week in your columns, and they're all successful. What's the difference?
Actually, from the City AM, I probably haven't got the clearest view of it, but I noticed at City AM that you went, at Sky rather, when I was sort of trying to get women to like kind of come on air and sort of do things, they were always sort of back down far too quickly, and the culture was just kind of to bin them.
But then that's a part of the culture. You don't put yourself forward. You don't necessarily brag about what you do.
Well, that is statistically, it is now being proven that 28% of influence around CSR and the way you have a culture within the business and the way the business develops profitability and has sustainability, 28% of your profit improvement comes out of that cultural thing, and it's the biggest one statistical measurable fact that is influencing businesses of the future.
But the question is, yes, exactly. Well, can you answer that? Because the question is, do women-led businesses have a distinctly different culture to male-led businesses? And if so, what is it?
I think generally they absolutely do. They do things differently. There's more flexibility in the workplace, which for me gave me massive retention. You know, people who wanted to work there. There's an understanding that you have to have a family. Family comes first. But the payback, oh my God, just because I was nice to my team and said, look, sort it out, come in late, whatever it is, I got hours of extra payback. You know, the reality check.
Yeah. I mean, there's actually been, was it Lord Sugar that said he wouldn't hire a woman of childbearing years, I think was his very PC way of putting it. Laura?
So I'm a mother of three, and I have had two candidates who have equal skill set that I want to recruit. One's a girl, one's a boy, one's a child her age, and because of her age, I employed the bloke. Okay, so if you like, I can become the most hated. But it is reality that in a small business, it is highly damaging that we are dictated these rules. And I have gone on record, in fact, in City AM, I think it was, to say that it is a farce, the paternity rules and the maternity rules for small business leaders.
Exactly.
And it is utterly something we must change.
Okay, Priya.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm totally for that. It's about being a couple and just deciding between getting the man to muck in, and you're generally fine. They do. My husband has been absolutely amazing. I was on my BlackBerry during labour, and literally the midwife was like, "Yanking me this way." I was like, "Get off me! I've got a child coming out of me. I've got to send an email." So we can't fight. But my husband has just been absolutely amazing, and often you'll find out. I think it's the government have got to help. They've got to change this.
Yeah. Network the hell out of it. I've never paid a mentor, and I've sort of been very selective and I suppose merciless about trying to find somebody who has expertise I can suck out of them and then learn a huge amount. It's enormously motivating, and then you need to move to the next learning curve and the next learning curve. I don't think you pay.
Okay. So I like this one. Go to startupbritain.org. And
money.
They have a huge number of mentors that will happily mentor you, that are all getting
Please go on, Priya. Take as much time as you want.
Please go on.
So, but I gather that the statistics show that a lot fewer women start up in business than men. Why is that?
Right, okay, so it's sort of, there's this mumpreneur. Was it mumpreneur? Is that what you are, Priya?
I don't really like that term too much. I think it's mumpreneurs or
mumpreneurs,
something like that.
So too many TREs.
I was really fortunate to be on a panel at Startup Britain's launch on Monday, and I actually asked the Prime Minister a very important question that I'd just like to say to it. It was the reason a lot of women don't start up businesses, particularly when they leave for maternity leave, because you hear a lot of women who say, I've left for maternity leave and I actually like a lifestyle and I'd like flexibility, I want to start my own business. The reason they don't is because there's not enough childcare available. Childcare is only available to women from the and I've just got a 1-year-old now, so I know that it's from 3 and above. I'm at the moment spending £1,200 a month for my daughter to get 4 hours and 4 afternoons, so I work 4 hours straight and 4 afternoons in a week, and then I work after she goes to sleep till about 2 o'clock in the morning. Luckily I'm an insomniac, I can do it, but it's because, but I'm paying all that money.
So you saying should the state subsidise that?
The state should do something in terms of, you know that it's the quote, it's start-up businesses or small businesses with 10 employees or less get relief, right? So maybe they should take that maybe that category of businesses and say that to women that if you start up a business or if you're in a small business and you're in that category, then we will offer you some sort of childcare voucher. I don't know what the solution is. I've not been working in government, but they need to do something.
Okay, hold on.
It goes back to this whole parental discussion and parental leave, because there's so much, how do you call it, pressure put on women to look after these situations, where actually I would say tax breaks go to both, but anyone setting up the businesses with children, I would offer them tax relief.
Okay, Donato.
And better childcare, better
And
safe
better
hold on,
childcare.
Donato, let's bring you in here.
Childcare, I think, is the absolute fundamental problem with the sort of inequality problem. It really is literally childcare. Apparently, if you compare lesbians with men in certain businesses, women are overall more successful. Lesbian women are more successful than men. So it goes to show it's just childcare.
But I just think it's wrong that we don't have the support for women in general. Why should I have had sleep? Unbelievably. I mean, the physical drain, I promise you, I look back now and I have no idea how I managed to get through those periods, but the determination that you're going to have to run a business anyway is exceptional, so don't be deluded. It'll be harder work than you can possibly dream.
But on this issue, and
I have a great husband.
But on this issue of tax relief, I mean, is that something you think? I mean, because obviously all these things.
It would certainly help the process, wouldn't it? I mean, it's not going to be a no.
Okay, so maybe we could start on the issue of stereotypes. I mean, do you think? I mean, Donato, I mean, you've told us that you've got to do 50-50. I mean, how does that work in terms of how you put together your stories and find female role models and so on?
I think in terms of profiling and in terms of putting experts on TV, I've always, and across the board, everyone feels the pressure to put 50-50. The problem is there are not enough women volunteering for it. They're always apologising for it.
Is this back to this sort of slightly more passive approach to this?
I think it's just sort of doubting themselves.
I'm sure the public do want to know about female entrepreneurs, and they want to celebrate women. I mean, every time that a woman is nominated for a business award, it's fantastic, because then you become a role model for other people. The only way for the general public to know that there are women who are doing really, really well in the world is if the media highlight it.
Give us a good piece of advice.
I tend to, like, when people give me advice that's supposed to, like, kind of calm me down, and, like, I tend to reject it and do the opposite. So I've always been one of the people that's motivated by people telling me to not do something.
Don't take any advice. A lot of entrepreneurs that take that. Priya.
I was just thinking about this. My dad actually told me not to start the business. He said, you're a barrister, you got married now, you're such a good girl, why don't you just be quiet over there and sort of sit in the corner, and we'll let the son, my brother, become an entrepreneur. But then I grew up all my life with my father saying to me, they're the ones, the East Africans who came here with nothing and then built businesses themselves. He said to me, never stop at anything. Never tell anybody that you can't achieve what you want to achieve. Never accept second best. And also, you don't want to be the person who in 10 years' time looks back on your life and says, I wish I did that. That's the piece of advice my dad has basically told me while I've been growing up.
Okay, Christina, what was...
I wish I'd listened to people who were not giving me the point of view that I had. So the advice was, don't go for retail premises. And what did Christina do? Retail premises. Lena lost business because of the overhead, so... I wish I'd listened.
Okay, Laura?
My father infuriated me because he told me to get a typewriter. So I guess that
when you married your husband?
No. And I guess the context of that is I was so bloody angry that I was going to prove him wrong, that I built a pretty good show, I guess.